Maya Evans clutched her acceptance letter as she climbed the stairs to her new apartment, still barely believing her luck. The University of Stellar Sciences had selected her, a small-town girl with big dreams of studying distant galaxies, for their prestigious astronomy program. The only catch, she'd been assigned a roommate through the university's new Cosmic Cultural Exchange program. "It'll be great," her academic advisor had assured her. "Just someone from a bit further away than usual." Maya hadn't given it much thought until now, standing outside her door, key in hand. She'd imagined a fellow student from another country, perhaps with different customs but ultimately human. Taking a deep breath, she unlocked the door and stepped inside. "Hello?" she called into the seemingly empty apartment. "Anyone home?" A soft humming sound emerged from the kitchen, followed by a tall figure that was decidedly not human. Standing nearly 7 feet tall with iridescent blue skin that seemed to shimmer with tiny points of light, the being regarded her with large, almond-shaped eyes that shifted between violet and silver. Maya dropped her suitcase with a thud. "Greetings, Earth roommate," the being said in perfect English, though the voice resonated with an unusual harmonic quality. "I am Ilex of the Celestial Confederation. I believe we are to share this dwelling for the academic cycle." Maya's scientific mind raced ahead of her shock. Not a foreign exchange student, an actual extraterrestrial exchange student. The university's cryptic orientation materials suddenly made much more sense. "I'm Maya," she managed, extending a hand automatically before wondering if handshakes were even a thing in the, what had he called it? The Celestial Confederation? Ilex looked at her hand curiously before gently pressing his palm against hers. His skin was warmer than human temperature, with a subtle vibration that felt like distant music. "I've been studying Earth customs," Ilex said proudly. "This greeting involves touching appendages to establish non-hostility, correct? On my world, we communicate initial harmony through synchronized breathing." Maya found herself laughing, tension breaking. "Close enough. And your English is amazing." Universal translators, Ilex tapped a small device behind what might have been an ear. "Though I've been studying your languages directly. Fascinating phonetic structure." Over the next few hours, Maya learned that Ilex was studying comparative planetary ecosystems. His people had been observing Earth for decades but had only recently established formal relations with specific human institutions, mostly universities and research centers. "So how many students like you are there?" Maya asked as they awkwardly navigated the kitchen together, Ilex ducking to avoid the low-hanging light fixture. 17 across your planet currently," Ilex replied, watching with fascination as Maya made coffee. "I'm the first at this institution." Maya nodded, digesting this information while observing her new roommate. Despite his alien appearance, there was something charmingly earnest about Ilex's attempts to fit in. "What's that?" Ilex pointed to a small potted succulent on the windowsill. "Just a plant. A cactus." Ilex approached it reverently. "On my world, we consider even the smallest lifeforms worthy of respect. May I communicate with it?" Before Maya could explain that plants on Earth didn't exactly chat, Ilex was humming softly to her cactus, his skin glowing faintly. Looking at his gentle interaction with the plant, Maya smiled. Perhaps this unexpected roommate situation would be more interesting than terrifying after all. 3 weeks into their cohabitation, Maya was surprised by how quickly living with an alien had become almost normal. Ilex's initial strangeness had transformed into endearing quirks, like his habit of greeting the dawn by standing on their small balcony with arms outstretched, absorbing sunlight through his iridescent skin, or how he insisted on thanking their apartment's electrical outlets before plugging anything in. "Energy deserves acknowledgement," he'd explained seriously when Maya had questioned this ritual. Today, they walked together across campus, Ilex wearing the human disguise he'd reluctantly agreed to use in public, a hooded sweatshirt, sunglasses, and gloves that concealed his most obvious alien features. The university administration had insisted on discretion until humanity was more prepared for widespread knowledge of extraterrestrial exchange students. I don't understand why my appearance requires concealment when your entertainment media depicts beings far more unusual than myself, Ilex commented, adjusting his sunglasses. Your science fiction is remarkably unscientific. Maya laughed. That's exactly why. People might think you're just someone in costume. Or worse, panic because you're real and not just CGI. They found a quiet spot under a large oak tree, and Maya spread out her astronomy notes while Ilex removed his restrictive gloves, flexing his six-fingered hands with relief. Your solar system's arrangement is fascinating, Ilex said, peering at her star charts. Much more chaotic than ours. We have 3 suns in perfect orbital harmony. Their study session was interrupted by a group of boisterous students approaching their tree. Maya recognized them as members of the university rugby team, led by Dominic Wells, a senior with a reputation for troublemaking. Hey, what's with the costume, freak? Dominic called out, noticing Ilex's unusual hands. Halloween's months away. Maya felt Ilex tense beside her. Just ignore them, she whispered. Is this your boyfriend, Maya? Dominic pressed, stepping closer. Didn't know you were into cosplay weirdos. He has a medical condition, Maya improvised quickly. Back off, Dominic. Something in Maya's protective tone made Dominic pause, but one of his friends snatched Ilex's sunglasses before they could react. What the friend stumbled backward as Ilex's silvery violet eyes were revealed, pupils contracting into vertical slits in the bright sunlight. Cool contacts, man, Dominic said, but his voice wavered with uncertainty. Ilex stood slowly, towering over the group. Though his expression remained calm, the air around him seemed to vibrate with a subtle electromagnetic charge that made the hair on Maya's arm stand up. On my world, Ilex said quietly, we have a principle called Orvash, the obligation to educate those who act from ignorance rather than malice. Your behavior suggests you were not properly taught respect for diversity. The strange harmonic quality of his voice, combined with his imposing height and uncanny eyes, made the rugby players step back involuntarily. Whatever, man, Dominic muttered, trying to save face. Keep your freaky roleplay to yourselves. They retreated quickly across the quad. Maya touched Ilex's arm gently. Are you okay? I'm so sorry about that. Ilex reclaimed his sunglasses. In my studies of Earth cultures, I've observed that such interactions are common. Difference creates fear in many species. Not everyone's like that, Maya insisted, feeling strangely ashamed on behalf of humanity. Later that evening, as they walked home through light rain, Maya noticed Ilex extending his palm to catch the droplets, his skin rippling with subtle bioluminescence where the water touched. Rain is sacred on my world, he explained, seeing her curious expression. It falls only once per seasonal cycle. Maya impulsively removed her jacket and tilted her face upward, letting the rain soak her hair and clothes. Then we should honor it properly. Ilex's surprised laugh was like chimes in the wind as he mimicked her gesture, removing his hood and spreading his arms wide. Standing there in the gentle downpour, Maya realized something had fundamentally shifted between them. In defending each other, they had crossed some invisible boundary, no longer just roommates from different planets but something more complex and interesting. Maya, Ilex said softly as raindrops traced luminous patterns on his blue skin, I believe I am experiencing what humans call friendship. It's more beautiful than our scholars described. Under the earth rain, Maya smiled at the alien who was quickly becoming the most important person in her world. Maya couldn't pinpoint exactly when her feelings for Ilex began to change. Perhaps it was the night he'd created a miniature aurora in their living room, manipulating electromagnetic fields with his hands to show her how the sky looked on his home planet. Or maybe during the small hours of morning when they'd stayed up discussing the philosophical implications of multiple inhabited worlds, their perspectives merging and diverging like cosmic dance partners. Now, watching him prepare a strange concoction in their kitchen, a tea from seeds he'd brought from his world, Maya found herself studying the graceful movements of his hands, the way light played across his blue skin, how his eyes shifted hues with his emotions. "Your heart rate has accelerated," Ilix observed without looking up. "Are you experiencing anxiety?" Maya blushed. She'd forgotten about his species' heightened sensory perception. "Just thinking about my astrophysics exam," she lied. Ilix poured the iridescent liquid into 2 cups. "This might help. It's called nebula calm in your language. It enhances mental clarity." Their fingers brushed as he handed her the cup, and Maya felt that now familiar flutter in her chest. The tea tasted like starlight might, if starlight had a flavor, sharp and sweet and impossibly distant. "You know," Maya said, searching for casual conversation, "you've learned so much about Earth, but you rarely talk about your home. Do you miss it?" Ilix's expression shifted in that subtle alien way she'd learned to read. "Yes and no. My world is beautiful, ordered, harmonious." He paused. "Perhaps too harmonious. There is something about Earth's chaos that feels vital." "Is that diplomat speak for, humans are primitive but entertaining?" Maya teased. "Not at all." Ilix's eyes shimmered violet, his equivalent of earnestness. "My people value efficiency and logic above all. We've engineered much of what you would call emotion out of our daily existence." He gestured to the small potted cactus, now thriving on their windowsill. "But here, everything feels. Even your simplest lifeforms pulse with unfiltered sensation." Maya considered this. "That sounds rather lonely." It was. Though I never recognized it until. His voice trailed off, and his skin rippled with bioluminescent patterns she'd never seen before, quick, pulsing waves of light that seemed almost agitated. "Until what?" Maya pressed gently. "Until I experienced Earth's emotional spectrum through proximity to you," he admitted. "It's been educational." Maya felt a surge of disappointment at his clinical framing. Of course, she was just an anthropological study to him. "Glad to be helpful to your research," she said, trying to keep the hurt from her voice as she stood abruptly. "I should probably study." Ilix caught her wrist with surprising gentleness. "I've offended you." "No, it's fine," Maya pulled away. "I just forgot that I'm basically a lab specimen for your cultural observations." Ilix's skin darkened to a deep indigo, concern, Maya had learned. "That is a significant misunderstanding of my meaning." Before he could elaborate, Maya's phone buzzed with a notification about a campus-wide astronomy event, the rare appearance of a meteor shower predicted to be visible despite city light pollution. "We should go," Ilix suggested, clearly trying to bridge the sudden awkwardness. "It would be relevant to both our studies." Later, they joined hundreds of students gathered on the university's central lawn, all gazing skyward. As the first meteors streaked across the darkness, Maya felt Ilix's presence beside her, warmer than a human, with that subtle vibration she'd grown accustomed to. "On my world," he whispered, "there's a concept called stellar resonance, the theory that beings who originate from the same star stuff can recognize each other across vast distances." "Like cosmic soulmates?" Maya asked, watching another meteor trace a brilliant path. "A simplified interpretation, but yes." His voice carried unusual harmonics. "Maya, when I spoke of experiencing Earth's emotions through you, I wasn't referring to scientific observation. I meant that you've awakened feelings I didn't know my species could still experience." Maya turned to face him, her heart thundering. "What kinds of feelings?" Under the falling stars, Ilix's skin illuminated with patterns she now recognized as his equivalent of a blush. "Complex ones. Fascinating ones. terrifying ones. His eyes shifted to a deep, rich purple she'd never seen before. The kind that make me question whether I want to return to my world when this exchange concludes. The implications of his words hung between them, as brilliant and terrifying as the meteors overhead. Maya reached out hesitantly, her fingers brushing against his luminescent skin, feeling the quickened pulse beneath. "I think," she said softly, "we might need to discuss these findings in more detail." As another meteor blazed overhead, Maya realized she'd fallen for someone from another world entirely, and somehow, impossibly, he might have fallen for her too. The university's spring semester was drawing to a close, bringing with it the looming reality Maya had been trying to ignore. Ilix's exchange program would end in less than 3 weeks. The calendar on their refrigerator, once filled with shared classes and campus events, now seemed to taunt her with its dwindling days. "We need to talk about it," Maya said one evening as they sat on their tiny balcony. The night was warm, heavy with the scent of flowering trees and the distant sounds of end-of-term celebrations. Ilix's skin pulsed with soft, subdued light, the pattern she now recognized as his expression of conflicted emotions. "My departure," he acknowledged, his melodic voice quieter than usual. "Is there any way to extend your stay?" Maya asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Since that night under the meteor shower, they had cautiously explored their feelings for each other, discovering a connection that transcended their biological differences. Light touches, shared dreams, and moments of profound understanding had woven them together in ways neither had anticipated. "The Celestial Confederation has strict protocols," Ilix explained, his eyes shifting to a deep navy blue. Regret, Maya had learned. The exchange was designed to be temporary. A cultural immersion, not a permanent relocation. Maya wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the spring warmth. "So that's it? You go back to your world, I stay on mine, and we just, what? Pretend this never happened?" Ilix moved closer, his tall frame curving protectively toward her. "Among my people, there is no precedent for what we've experienced. Interspecies emotional bonding is unprecedented." "Great," Maya said bitterly. "We're breaking new ground. I'm sure that'll be fascinating for your scientists to study." "Maya," Ilix's voice resonated with a harmonic she hadn't heard before, something ancient and powerful. "I've been communicating with my world's Council of Interstellar Relations. They're concerned about the developments in my exchange experience." A cold dread settled in Maya's stomach. "They don't approve." "It's more complex than approval or disapproval," Ilix said. "My species values knowledge above all else. Our emotional capacity has been deliberately minimized over generations to enhance intellectual functioning. What I've experienced with you, what you've awakened in me, challenges fundamental aspects of our evolutionary direction." Maya stood, pacing the small balcony. "So I'm what, a biological threat? An evolutionary regression? Or a revelation?" Ilix countered, rising to his full height. In the moonlight, his blue skin shimmered with intensity. "Maya, I've submitted a formal petition to the Council. I've requested permission to establish the first long-term Earth-celestial relationship study." Maya froze. "What does that mean, exactly?" "It means I've asked to stay," Ilix said simply. "Or, at minimum, to create a framework for continued contact beyond the exchange program." Hope fluttered in Maya's chest. "And? The Council is deliberating." His skin darkened with anxiety. "Such a request is unprecedented. The implications extend beyond just us." Maya approached him slowly, placing her hand against his chest where she could feel the strange, beautiful rhythm of his non-human heart. "Why would you risk challenging your entire people's belief system? Your career? Your place in your world?" Ilix covered her hand with his. "Because in all my studies of your planet's literature and philosophy, I finally understand what your poets mean when they speak of love. It's not a chemical reaction or evolutionary advantage, it's a choice to see the universe through the eyes of another. Tears formed in Maya's eyes. And if they say no? Then I have another option to propose, Ilix said carefully. The Celestial Confederation has a newly established program for exceptional interspecies scientific collaboration. It would allow human researchers with unique qualifications to visit our world for extended periods. Maya's breath caught. Are you saying? I'm saying, Ilix continued, his skin pulsing with hopeful light patterns, that your work in astrophysics, particularly your recent paper on interstellar medium composition, would qualify you for such a program. You could come to my world, Maya. Not permanently at first, but... Yes, Maya interrupted, her voice firm and clear despite her tears. Whatever it takes. Whether you stay or I go or we meet somewhere in the middle of the galaxy. Yes. Ilix's arms encircled her, his tall frame bending to press his forehead against hers in the traditional greeting of his people. Between them, a decision had been made, one that might reshape not just their lives but the relationship between two worlds. 2 weeks, Maya whispered. We have 2 weeks until your scheduled departure. What do we do now? Now, Ilix said, his voice resonating with newfound determination, we prepare to challenge the stars themselves if necessary. Against the backdrop of Earth's night sky, human and alien held each other, their silhouettes merging into a single shadow cast by the light of a moon that suddenly seemed less distant than the challenges ahead. The day of Ilix's scheduled departure arrived with a dawn that seemed too ordinary for such a pivotal moment. Maya stood in their half-empty apartment, watching as Ilix carefully packed the few Earth possessions he was permitted to take back to his world, a collection of poetry books, a small jar of soil from their campus, and the resilient cactus that had thrived under his care. Any word from the council? Maya asked, her voice steady despite the anxiety churning inside her. They had spent the past 2 weeks preparing applications, recording testimonials, and gathering scientific evidence to support their case for continued connection. Ilix's skin rippled with light patterns that betrayed his nervousness. The final communication is scheduled for 1 hour before my departure vessel arrives. Maya nodded, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. She had already submitted her own application to the Interspecies Research Program, complete with recommendations from her professors who, after being brought into their confidence, had been surprisingly supportive of this unprecedented scientific and cultural exchange. Whatever happens, Maya said, taking Ilix's hands in hers, this isn't an ending. Ilix's eyes shifted to that deep violet hue she'd come to cherish. In my language, we don't have a word for goodbye. The closest translation is, until our paths cross again in the cosmic dance. A soft chime emanated from Ilix's communication device. Both of them froze, eyes locked on the small crystalline object pulsing with internal light. It's the council, Ilix said, his melodic voice tight with tension. Maya squeezed his hands once before releasing them. Answer it. The next few minutes seemed to stretch into eternity as Ilix communicated in his native language, a beautiful, complex symphony of sounds no human vocal cords could produce. His skin fluctuated through colors and patterns so rapidly that Maya couldn't interpret them all, though she caught glimpses of surprise, concern, and something that might have been joy. When he finally set the device down, Ilix stood perfectly still for several heartbeats. Well? Maya prompted, unable to bear the suspense. The council has reached a decision that I believe your Earth idioms would call, splitting the difference, Ilix began carefully. My petition to remain on Earth permanently has been denied. Maya's heart sank, but before despair could fully take hold, Ilix continued. However, they have approved the establishment of an extended research initiative on human celestial cultural and emotional exchange. I am to return to my world for 60 Earth days to present my initial findings and undergo evaluation. His skin began to glow with increasing brightness. After which, I would be permitted to return to Earth for a minimum of 1 Earth year to continue the study. You can come back? Maya's voice broke with emotion. Yes. And there's more. Ilix's eyes now shone with a brilliant silver Maya had never seen before. Your application to the interspecies research program has been provisionally accepted. During my absence, you would begin preparation for a reciprocal visit to my world. Maya's knees weakened, and she sank onto their couch. I could see your planet. Meet your people. You would be the first human to do so, Ilix confirmed, sitting beside her. The Council believes that our connection, while unexpected, presents a unique opportunity for deeper understanding between our species. Maya laughed, a sound caught between joy and disbelief. So our relationship has been officially sanctioned as a scientific experiment? In the language of bureaucracy, yes, Ilix admitted, his skin pulsing with amused light patterns. Though I suspect the Council understands more than they officially acknowledge. My mentor on the Council sent a personal message suggesting that emotional evolution might be as valid as intellectual evolution. Outside their window, a sleek, unmarked vehicle pulled up, the first stage of Ilix's journey back to his world. Their time together, for now, was drawing to a close. 60 days, Maya said, standing with new determination. I can handle 60 days. In cosmic terms, barely a moment, Ilix agreed, gathering her into a gentle embrace. His skin illuminated with the complex, beautiful pattern she now recognized as his expression of love, a symphony of light that seemed to harmonize with her own human heartbeat. As they walked together toward the waiting vehicle, Maya carried the small potted cactus, insisting Ilix take it with him. A piece of earth to keep you company until you return, she explained. Under the morning sun, they paused for one final moment alone. No human words or alien harmonics seemed adequate for the journey they had begun. Until our paths cross again in the cosmic dance, Maya whispered, using his people's phrase. Ilix touched his forehead to hers, completing the circuit of connection between their two very different but equally miraculous forms of stardust. The dance has only just begun, he replied, his voice resonating with promise. As Ilix's transport disappeared into the bright spring sky, Maya stood watching long after it had vanished from sight. Around her, the university campus continued its ordinary human rhythms, unaware that within its boundaries, the first chapter of an extraordinary interstellar romance had just concluded, and a new one was about to begin. Maya turned toward her apartment, already planning what she would pack for her own journey to the stars.